Yeah, I don't know about this. My wife had this idea of putting some planters on the back porch, and then, as you saw in the intro clip, putting some solar-powered lantern lights in them that would stick up above the planters and kind of light up the whole backyard porch area and kind of act as not only accent lights, but just some ambiance with some planter boxes in there. And to me, the plastic planter boxes just look completely out of scale to the size of the lanterns. The height of the lanterns was just all wrong with the height of the boxes. I just wasn't very happy with it. So I actually had all of this cedar plank laying around that had come out of a closet, and I got all of this cedar for free. So I thought maybe I could just build some cedar planters that would be a little more to scale with not only the lantern lights but the size of our porch as well, and just be a little more attractive than a black plastic box. So the first thing I did was I set up my miter saw, and then I clamped that to my workbench and set up a stop block at the other end of my workbench so that I could quickly cut all of these to the exact same length and just stack them up over there as I was going. This length here would be the side panels, and then once I was done with that, I could move on to the end panels. And I kind of had an idea in mind of what I was working for, so once I had the side panel planks cut up, I reset my stop block to the length of the side panels and then started cutting all of those out. Here you see me moving the stop block and then reclamping it, and then these would all be the panels for the end. And then once I had all of my end panel pieces cut up, I could move over to the other workbench and lay these all out and start screwing all of my side panels together. This was just a real simple, quick, down and dirty construction method of 2 uprights and then a bunch of horizontal boards screwed to those. The one thing that I will say here is that I knew that I was going to put the bottom in this thing raised up off of the ground a little bit, so the 2 upright supports that these are all being screwed to are held short of the full length of this panel. You might notice that on the right side of this panel there if you look closely at the board underneath. And then here when I flip it over, you can see how I held those 2 boards short so that the bottom could screw up against that and not be down on the ground. And there's one panel. Move on to the other panel. So basically I just laid these all out and then laid the upright panel supports onto that. Used another spacer to set the depth from the edge that I wanted for the side panels, and then temporarily screw these together. And then flip it all over. all lined back up. And then start screwing it together for good. One other thing to note here was that I was using a staggered screw pattern so that the board, the whole panel would not rack. What we learned there is don't set your pile of screws on the piece of wood that you're working on, and pay attention to what you're moving around. And then once I had it all screwed together, flip it over, and then take out my temporary screws that were holding it together when I started. Then we can move on to putting the end panels on it. And what I did here was I just stood up one of the side panels, clamped the end panel to it, and then do a whole lot of switching bits back and forth because I don't have two screw guns, I just have the one. Pre-drill the holes, and then screw the screws in. I wanted to pre-drill the holes because I was afraid it was going to split. Cedar's pretty soft wood, and I was drilling pretty close to the edges. And then just stand the other panel up, screw that one together as well. And then just keep working your way up. Spin it around and start the other end. And once I was done with the end panels, I could move on to the bottom. Same construction method as the side panels, 2 vertical braces with 3 horizontal slats. And I was making sure to space the vertical braces so that they would fit inside of the braces on the side panels, because that's how the thing's going to screw together. Now, one thing to note here is that 3 boards wide was wider than the box, so I knew that I had to trim one of these boards down. So I screwed the main thing together and then left the one board loose, marked it with my T-square, took it over to the bandsaw, and cut off the excess on the bandsaw. And I probably could have done this on the table saw, but my table saw was currently set up as a workbench, so converting it over just for this one cut wasn't really something I wanted to do. With the cut made, I could put that board back on the bottom, screw it all together, and then put it in the box. After it's dropped down in, screw it together to the box. These screws are going into the braces on the side panels, like I said, and that's what will hold that all together. Later on, I ended up making feet for this, and when it was all finished, here's what we ended up with. I think the scale looks a little better, and I think the cedar looks good as well. It's definitely better than black plastic, and at the end of the day, it all came together pretty nice. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell so you know when the next video is coming. And if you enjoyed this project, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, everybody.